so I had, that felt like everyone I'd ever known judging me, and But you know what? I remember lying in bed that night thinking, you know what? I haven't been physically hurt, so it's like it's all in my head. If I'm going to take this on board, so I decided to go back the next week. I thought I've got to do this. If I don't do it straight away, I'm never going to do it again.
Welcome to the podcast, Hughesy.
It's great to be here. I'm happy to share my time with you and talk about stuff. I'm more into talking about the mental journey now than I probably ever was, and I have been for a long time. So believe me, that's a big statement.
So I wanted to start. Normally, I start with a quote on this podcast, and something that I heard you recently speak about was sharing your story of your first stand-up gig. And I think this is really important because particularly with successful people, I feel like we tend to forget where they came from. And when I heard you share this story, it gave me goosebumps thinking about it, because it really shows how far you can come if you just keep doing what you want to do. And I know that you described your first stand-up gig as one of the most humiliating experiences of your life. I'd love for you to take me back, or us back, to that, the first stand-up gig, and sort of what happened and what did you learn from that first experience of getting up stage. And in your words, I think you said, when you get up on stage, you're making a statement that you're funny and that you're worth people's time. But in that first experience, it didn't sort of go to plan.
Yeah, well, I think I just turned 22, I think, when my first stand-up gig. But so with my backstory, I was always I was a keen sportsman as a kid, and I was always striving to achieve. And if I failed to make the first football team at school, I remember crying in the toilets on my own, thinking I'm not good enough. So I was always wanting to be the best, even if other people didn't know it. I had a big ego, and sport was a big thing for me. I was good at school as well, so always wanting to be better than other people. And so when I finished school, I started a university degree, but I couldn't focus. I was doing information technology. It was 1989. It was just the start. If you know the history of the internet, it started around 89, 90. So, but I lasted 6 weeks at my information technology degree. So in a way, I didn't. I felt, I'm not a winner. I'm going to be a loser because I've dropped out of university. I was, on the dole. But I had a comedy dream as well. As a 14 or 15-year-old, I had a dream to be a comedian, and I thought I was funny. It was a quiet sort of funniness. I wasn't the loudest kid at school. I wasn't the most confident person. But when I was given the opportunity to be in front of a group of people, I could make them laugh. I remember doing a year 11 religious education speech in front of. I went to a Christian Brothers college, so it was Brother O'Brien was the teacher of this class, and he had no control of the class, and I was able to make the whole class laugh really hard. And I got 10 out of 10 for my speech from all of my classmates, but that was the only class at school I ever failed. So that was the only subject I ever failed, was year 11 religious education. But that one speech really planted a seed that I was a funny guy. So, and he failed me on that speech. So the irony of my only failure at high school was the class that actually propelled my career. So going to uni, failing that, being a shy kid from the country. Then I started another degree, a business degree, which I also failed. I do remember the second degree, and it was the second semester of my second year. I'm in an exam. I've got no idea what the answers are. But in my head, I was thinking, I want to be a comedian anyway, so this doesn't really matter. So it was definitely in my head. I moved from country Victoria to Perth at the age of just turned 22. I'm over there. I thought, I'm going to have a go now. I'm away from everyone I know. I'm going to get on stage. And so I went to a stand-up comedy room over there. And so in my mind, it was all leading to this moment, all my past failures and the fact that it looks like I wasn't going to be a success in university. But this was the moment. I'm a comedian. So, and when I walked on this stage and then said a joke, which I thought was funny, no one laughed. And in my head, it's like, you are a loser. Your whole life is a failure. You are deluded. Everyone thinks you're a joke. And so I'm trying to, that's going through my head as I'm trying to make like 50 strangers laugh. They don't understand the the mental disintegration that's going on inside me. So it was horrendous. No one laughed at all. This comedy room did not have a backstage. So when you got off stage, you had to walk through the crowd. So I'm walking through the crowd. It's just dead silence of people looking at me. I feel like they're all judging me as the biggest loser in the world. So I walk out of this little comedy venue just feeling awful, thinking my life's over. But you know what? When I went home that night, I was living in a share flat with another guy, and his name was Rat. Well, his nickname's Rat, and I'm still friends with Rat. I said to Rat, he said, "How did you go at the stand-up comedy?" And he'd known me for years. And I said, "Oh, mate, that not well." And he said, "You know why?" And I said, "Oh, not really." And he looks at me and goes, "You're not funny, mate."
Oh, no.
so I had, that felt like everyone I'd ever known judging me. And yeah, but you know what? I remember lying in bed that night thinking, you know what? I haven't been physically hurt. So it's like, it's all in my head if I'm going to take this on board. So I decided to go back the next week. I thought, I've got to do this. If I don't do it straight away, I'm never going to do it again. So I went back next week and got on the same stage, and I didn't have a great time. Not everyone didn't laugh that much, but I kept my dignity. I didn't dissolve into a puddle of embarrassment. So, and that was a big moment for me just to get back up there. But you know what? It wasn't until my third time, which was a few months later, to be honest, because the stress was just killed me on those first 2 months. My third time on stage, I saw an ad in the West Australian newspaper which said, "New comedians required." And I thought, I've got to do it again. So I rang the number, and I didn't even know who was going to answer, but the person who answered was one of the people who organised that comedy gig that I'd already done twice. And I said, "I'm ringing about the new comedians." And this guy recognised my voice. He said, I remember you from a few months ago. And I said, yeah. He said, you're not that bad. You should have another go. And I said, okay. And I went along that third night, and this is the moment which propelled my career. There's two moments. First, the year 11 RE class where I was able to make everyone laugh. And this third time on stage, as I walked on stage, the thought occurred to me, you're already a winner just for doing this. Just for walking on this stage, you're a winner. And that absolutely relaxed me. And that time I had the crowd in the palm of my hand. And I walked off stage that night so happy, thinking, yes, I have found what I want to do for the rest of my life. I was absolutely on a high. And I'm probably still chasing that high, to be honest. But it was that time of just whatever, a higher power, I don't know what it was, just saying to me, you don't have to prove anything. You're already a winner. You just by doing this, you're a winner. So yeah, and that's the start of my comedy journey. And after that third time on stage, where I in my mind I had a great gig, and maybe the people there would disagree, I don't know, but for my mind I had a great gig. That was I was hooked from then on. And yeah, there's been a lot of ups and downs since then, but it's that, for me, it's just the thrill of I find being on a stand-up comedy stage thrilling, and I love it. And yes, and I'll do it till I'm in a retirement home. I'll be organising gigs when I'm 90 in a retirement home, I reckon.
I'm sure laughter will keep many of them alive. So between the first time you did stand-up comedy on stage and sort of that third time where it's like you're almost in that flow state, do you think the difference in the audience loving you was not just the jokes, but like, as you're saying, that like air of confidence, like you're not getting on just thinking about yourself and how you'll be received, like you sort of like leaned back into relaxing and just kind of enjoying it more?
Absolutely. I mean, I think generally a crowd not all the time, and sometimes you have nights where everyone's drunk and you just cannot get their focus, or this is not a blanket statement, but more often than not, the crowd reflect your attitude. So, and if you're relaxed, they'll be relaxed. So it's it's that and the more desperate you are to be liked, the less you're likely to be liked. You can't grab at it. You just got to accept it. So yeah, absolutely. I do believe the mindset you take on stage, or the mindset you take anywhere, is the most important thing, if not the only important thing.
Yeah, I've heard you talk about, like, even recently, about, the power of, like, being able to get on stage and not care if people don't laugh. What's your relationship with that? Is that like full on bulletproof mindset, or do you still have times in your life now where it's like, it kind of hurts if not everybody's laughing?
Yeah, absolutely. Look, I do think the most powerful mindset I can have is when I'm on stage doing comedy, and you're not going to make everyone laugh, and I know that some people hear my name and go, oh, I don't like that guy. He annoys me. I don't think he's funny at all. And I don't like that people have that attitude, but I accept they do. I still don't like it, but I accept it. Yeah. But the best mindset I can have is when you're in a bad mood, you look on stage, you look out to the crowd, and I don't like seeing the crowd generally because it can be distracting, but often the lights are so that you can see the crowd. And when I'm in a bad mindset, I'll look out to the crowd, and I won't look at the majority of people laughing. I'll look at the people not laughing, and they will put me in a bad mood. But my bulletproof mindset is when I look in the crowd and I see someone staring at me like I am making them have the worst time they've ever had in their entire life. And if that makes me laugh, when that makes me laugh, I cannot be beaten. When I look at people and they look at me like they hate me and I'm amused by that, I've got a mindset which just cannot be beaten. So yeah.
I love that reframe. That's so powerful.
Yeah, well, another example of that, to be honest, and I know I'm sort of carrying on here, but I've done the Montreal Comedy Festival a number of times. So it's in Canada, and people don't know me. I'm not a big name over there. So I remember one night I was doing a gig. It was called the Superstars of Comedy, and it had big American names on it that the Canadian audiences did know, and I was on the show as well. And when I walked on stage, everyone else had got a standing ovation. And I walked on stage and there was no standing ovation. And the first thing I said was, well, I don't get a standing ovation. And it was that relaxed mindset which made that gig go really well. And then I did a really good gig. And when I walked off, I did get a standing ovation. And another comedian, a guy called Lewis Black, who's very well known in America, and the Canadian audiences know him as well. And he's seen comedy for 50, 60 years. He's seen it all. He said, when you walked on stage and said, I don't get a standing ovation, it made me laugh so hard. And that was just a natural reaction to that. But then I went back, I think, the next year, and all I could think about was the standing ovation I got last time. So I'm on stage, in front of 3,000 people, and I'm doing a gig, and it's going quite well. But in my head, all I'm thinking about, I'm not going to get a standing ovation here. And so I was stuck in the past, right. And guess what? I didn't get a standing ovation. But that was just, you've got to continually relearn these lessons about staying in the moment. And that was just another lesson for me, that I was clinging to the past, to some achievement in the past, where I should have just been enjoying the present moment. So, and I'm still to this day, it's something I've got to continually remind myself, just to stay in the present moment. What's past is past. And, comparing yourself to the past is a terrible thing to do, the past you.
Yeah. How do you manage expectation? Because particularly, when we're not only passionate about something, but it's our career, it's supporting our lifestyle and our family and things like that. Obviously, expectation is healthy because it pushes you to be a high performer in the sense of being able to support you to do what you do for a living. How do you, I heard you recently sort of talk about, even with shows that you've done, you have this following, like people are like tuning in and supporting you, but it's just so easy to look at the people that aren't watching or the people that aren't supporting, and it just kind of takes that attention away. How do you manage that day to day?
It's a constant process of doing that. I reached out to a comedian yesterday, in fact, who was his I won't say who he is, but he put something on Instagram which was really a full on, lifeline number up on the screen. And in his speech that he was making, he was basically talking about the fact that his career had already peaked, and it was basically depressing him. And I said to him, via text message, and I want to talk to him about it, mate, you cannot live in the past. It's like you've got to enjoy the moment, because our time on this earth is so brief. It is ridiculously brief. And I mean, I take this as liberating. People can take it as depressing, but in 2 generations' time, or, the maximum of 3 or 4 generations' time, no matter what you achieve on this earth, it will be forgotten. I mean, everything is forgotten. So the main thing I believe to do is live in the moment, and not worry about your legacy, or worry about the fact that, you used to sell more tickets, or you used to rate better on a TV show, or whatever it is, you used to have more downloads on your podcast, or, and the only way to live, or the best way to live, is to stay in the moment and enjoy the moment.
And I am a massive advocate for that. I feel like in the last couple of years of my life, I've certainly been trying to practice what I preach in relation to that. And it's just been life-changing for you, because I know that you really try to embody that every day and truly believe in it. Like, I feel your passion in it. Where did that sort of start to filter into your life, sort of more thinking about the power of living in the present?
It's just so many lessons about it. Like, it's just of that. Isn't one example? For 4 years in a row, I opened the Logies, which is a big deal for a performer to walk out on the Logies stage and do comedy. And, people basically only remember the people who bombed at the Logies, and I was doing really well at these, 4 years in a row. I was doing really well at it. And then the 5th year I went to Japan, and I didn't do it. But I was so in my head, I had built something which was real, which was he's the guy who opens the Logies, and I would get annoyed when people didn't acknowledge it, and it was just ridiculous. I mean, it was absolutely ridiculous. I have sent messages to journalists who talk about the Logies and not mention my opening in the Logies. Like, what am I doing? Like other people don't care. Why should they care? So I think I learned the lesson of just let all that go. It doesn't matter that clinging to the ego, or clinging to some sort of image that you think you've built about yourself. It is ridiculous, and it doesn't paint you in a good light, and it's just unnecessary, and it's just a painful way to live when you can really just, it sounds corny, but appreciate the fact that you are alive, and that you are, you've got this gift of being conscious, of being able to appreciate the mystery of life. It's ridiculous for us to whinge about ego-based stuff, which, in the end, no one cares about anything. So just enjoy every moment, or try to enjoy every moment.
Yeah, to truly understand, and this has been a big lesson for me, is like, at any point that you are seeking some form of external validation, like, understand that that's something within you that you need to work on yourself, because that will never be satisfied. For as long as you're looking for it out there, it will always be something that you're trying to satiate, but never fully feel good about yourself. And I think since I kind of learned that lesson and been trying to practice that, and as you're saying, with all these things that we can talk about, it's a daily practice, and we don't always show up 100%, but I think it's really beautiful to have that intention. In relation to ego, because I've heard you say, at any point that you've identified with your ego, you have always felt some form of pain. So how does that sort of manifest in your life?
Well, it's again, it goes back to as a child. I mean, I think some people grow up with this, I don't know where it came from, with this desperate need to be validated, or desperate need to prove that you're worthy. And you don't have to prove you're worthy. There's nothing to prove to anyone. It doesn't matter. So it's like, and learning that over the years, I think is helping me now. So another example for me is, I've been outspoken on Twitter about, COVID or whatever. And then if my name, if my name is trending on Twitter, it's never positive, right? So it's literally thousands of people telling me I'm no good, or, I'm not funny, or I'm an idiot. And I remember back in the day when one person writing a letter to the editor, back in the day before the internet, would just ruin my week. I remember once, and now I can have 1,000 people telling me I'm an idiot, on a moment by moment basis, and I go, oh, yeah, whatever. So it's, I don't know if I'm digressing here, but I remember once I was doing I did a radio. I mean, I've done radio shows for 20 years now, but one morning, oh God, we had someone come in the middle of the radio show. Someone was helping us out, and he said, "Oh, what about what they said about you in the paper today?" And I'm like, "What? What did they say about me?" And then I realised that my radio team had actually not put the papers on the desk that day because they knew I would be upset about what had been said about me. And I'm like, "What did they say? You can't hide the truth from me." And it was someone from the letters to the editor had said that, I was not funny or a pain in the ass or something. And it was like, it ruined my week. Like, just the ego, just it's unbelievable. But now I can see someone on the internet, which happens all the time. You're not funny, you're shit. And I go, oh, yeah, whatever. When I don't even reply, I just, you know what I do? I just mute that person. I go, well, I don't want to hear from you. I just mute them. I don't block them. I just mute them so I don't have to hear from them again. But yeah, I can't remember how that conversation started, but anyway, the ego. Try to get beyond the ego. I tell you,
and definitely don't hop on Twitter and go for a rant.
Well, yeah, you can do it, but just remember you're going to cop flack. Yeah. So, and if you're upset about copping flack, don't do it. So, and you can always just walk away. You can walk away from the internet at any time. It's an absolute time waste. Twitter and those sort of things. We know that.
Yeah, so I actually found that fascinating, because I've been quite, I suppose, sheltered from that form of feedback. And I was looking at, your different accounts of the different projects that you're involved in. And, some people are just absolutely brutal in what they take their time in their day to, go out of their way and message things that are just not kind.
Nasty. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. How do you, because I feel like it's such an appropriate thing and relevant thing for most of us that are on social media, particularly I love Brene Brown's in the arena, we're in the arena and we're going to cop some shit from some people. How do you truly, what helped you go from, being pissed off for a week because someone in an opinion letter said that you're not funny, to now being able to receive potentially thousands of people not being kind to you? What's helped you being able to manage that?
Well, I think it is just your hide getting thicker through copying that. I think it's that, but also realizing that it's just ridiculous, and it's. And what people say about you is more about them than it is about you. Here's an example of me, and I've done it to other people as well. And I had a crack at Kyle Sandilands years ago on the Logies. This is a number of years ago, and it was a joke. But the end of the joke was me saying that he was a massive dickhead. All right, so and he took it very badly, and and threatened to beat me up. And it was, then I've since found out that it was the first time he'd been at the Logies, and his parents were watching the Logies. And, it was and then I had said this nasty thing about him. I only said it because he'd said nasty things about other people and, friends of mine. And,
that's how wars are created.
Exactly. But what I've said to him we're friends now, we're friends. And what I've said to him, since is that partly that was jealousy. I was jealous of his success. And that's often why you'll attack someone else, because you're jealous of what they've got, and I'd like to think those thousands of people are jealous of me.
I mean, it's not a bad mindset to have. And I mean, this is on a much smaller scale than you, but, I started uploading some of these videos onto YouTube, and one of my introduction videos, someone gave it a dislike, and I was like, who gives things a dislike? I'm just talking about my my life. And I'm talking about really positive, nice things. Basically, that it's an open space of like everyone is welcome. It's a safe space. And someone's like given that energy to be like, you know what, I'm going to dislike that. And I was so surprised. But, you know, I'm also grateful for those things, because I think, as I can see with you, having those experiences, though that's small, I'm sure it will get bigger, is being able to reflect on myself. Okay, how am I receiving that? You know, I've had so much positive feedback. Why does it take one person to click a dislike to take up my headspace? It's insanity. It doesn't make sense.
It's ridiculous. And my wife is she's got her ego under control and pretty much always has. But whenever I whinge about a bad review or something, she just goes, "You're one of the most successful comedians Australia's produced. You've got a happy family, a loving wife, and, you know, you're financially secure. Shut up." You know, so it's like, but I know that money doesn't necessarily. And when I say this, people go, "Well, you've got money, so you can't say anything." But I honestly believe, and I believe that, I don't want to say this, but look, James Packer, one of the richest men in Australia, we know he's had his issues, you know, so, and he's got more money than he could ever spend. So it's money. Don't chase money to think it's going to make you happy, is what I mean. And people can say, "Well, you've got money, so shut up." And all right, I acknowledge that. But I do honestly believe, and as we've talked about, that it's all you make. It's what I say to my children, and my son especially, he's very much like me in a way that he will get down on himself and, you know, playing basketball and he gets taken off the court and he's, you know, unhappy. But that's self-pity. We make every decision in our lives. No one else makes the decisions for our happiness. We are captain of our mental ship and no one else can be. And we've got to, if you take control of that or be aware of it, well, then it doesn't matter what happens externally, because you are, you know, you're cultivating a happy life within yourself and no one else can do it for you. They can't. They absolutely can't. Only you can control your thoughts, or you do control your thoughts. Not only can you do control them. Whether you realize or not, you are making moment by moment decisions about what you're thinking about. And we haven't at this point worked out some mind control that someone else can do it for you. You're doing it for yourself. So anyway, there you go.
Absolutely.
I say it to my son. My son tells me to shut up when I say that. But anyway.
Well, it's pretty confronting for people, because, you know, we don't really grow up. Well, I certainly didn't. Maybe it's a little different with the internet these days, but really understanding how to control our thoughts, or that we're responsible for our thoughts or anything like that, particularly buying into them. I think that's the biggest thing. Is like, I can have shitty thoughts, but my life is profoundly different whether I believe them or not. And that's certainly on me. That's a very conscious thing to be doing.
But I'm going to go further than that. You are producing those thoughts. No one else is producing them. You're making decisions about what you're thinking about. There's no one else is making those decisions. You are. So if you treat your thoughts like they're a factory and you're producing every thought every second of the day, you're producing them. It's your decisions to produce those thoughts. No one else is making those decisions. You are. So people need to realize that they are the ones controlling their own emotions. You can blame outside circumstances for controlling emotions, but you're doing it. No one else can do it for you. You're doing it. So, yeah. Anyway.
I definitely agree. I think there's definitely thought patterns that, you know, come from our childhood that aren't as empowering or kind to ourselves. And I think it's important as adults to be able to call those thoughts out and change them. And I think it's a practice.
It is. No one's perfect, but it's an awareness as well. You just got to be aware that you're doing it.
Yeah, which in relation, like, I've heard that you meditate twice a day, 20 minutes a day, which I'm very impressed by, because you don't hear too many people meditating twice a day for 20 minutes. Like, I try and do twice a day, 10 minutes, and I think I'm pretty big rock star in that world because of that.
Yeah. No, you are.
It's definitely profoundly changed my life. When did you get into meditation, and how have you found that that's kind of like changed your life?
Now, I first started meditating, and I haven't been as good as I should be. And I'm here to say I'm not perfect at meditating, and I don't do 20 minutes.
It's been all lies,
I have time. It's not all lies. I said that recently, but I have I am in and out of meditation. I think every moment should be a meditation, and every moment can be a meditation. I think all meditation is being aware. It's awareness, being aware of what you're thinking. But I do believe that doing it regularly is the right thing to do. But for me, it's like, if you ever go for a run or do any exercise, you always feel better afterwards. And that's the same with meditation. You'll never meditate and then not feel better afterwards, even if it's a very noisy meditation, because at least you're aware of what you're thinking about. And that's the best thing about meditation, where you go, right, I'm going to try not to think, but not try not to think. I'm just going to be aware of what my thoughts are doing. And even if you do it for 5 minutes or 10 minutes or 20 minutes, that awareness of that thought factory we're talking about and what it's producing, just be aware of that makes you realize that is something that you can get behind or get on, sort of get above and see it for what it is. So it's really powerful. My first meditation, I think, was at a Buddhist retreat in Perth. And, I like the philosophy of Buddhism, and I've actually, is it Tao, T-A-O?
I think you can say Tao or Tao, yeah.
Tao or Tao. For me, their philosophy is the highest I've come across, I reckon. There's some really good stuff to read about Tao or Tao, and I absolutely encourage anyone who wants to get calmer in their life to Google Tao or Google Tao and look at their philosophies, because they're beautiful philosophies. But back to this Buddhist retreat, for half an hour, the guy on stage said nothing, and everyone was quiet for half an hour. And I grew up in the Catholic Church listening to priests talk, every Sunday. And I thought, no, this is the best. This is the best sermon I've ever heard, because no one spoke any bullshit. You know what I mean? So just be silence. And the power of silence, I think, is incredible as well.
Yeah, there's profound lessons in silence. And, I can certainly relate with the meditation throughout the day and just observing. Like even yesterday, I was feeling slight anxiety in the afternoon. And I feel like we can have this like habit of kind of pushing through. It's kind of like, oh, I'm feeling an uncomfortable feeling. I'm just going to like keep doing things. And I was like, no, I'm going to pull myself up and actually be aware of what is it actually making me feel a little anxious. And it was just something completely ridiculous. But it moved through because I did that, and it passed because I called it out. And I think that's like a beautiful practice to be able to start doing is, even if you don't have the attention span to be able to sit for 10, 20 minutes a day, just to be able to move throughout your day and be more conscious of how you're feeling inside.
Yeah, just to be aware of your thoughts. And that's what people aren't. And I've spent much of my life not being aware of my thoughts, but it's the more aware you can be of what you're producing in the brain it's just so powerful to realize that they're just thoughts. And my big mantra at the moment is get beyond thought, beyond it. It's not even, you don't have to even work out your problems. Get beyond your problems. There is really no problems. Get beyond it all. It's almost like don't think your way through it. Just don't think at all. It's like, see that process and that mental process of something that you can sit behind and see it for what it is, which is, it's nothing.
Yeah, I think that's beautiful. And just recently I started a new meditation, and all I say is I am, because I think we have a tendency that any point we say I am something, it's the ego that's speaking. So just to be able to sit in that state of just saying I am, it's like a very quick way to kind of feel, as you're sort of saying, like get connected with that place that is beyond thoughts. It's like your essence.
Yeah, I mean, it's again trying to get corny or deep, but we spend me is like anyone else, you spend 90% of your time worrying about utter bullshit without, it's okay to contemplate the fact that we're here for a blink of the eye of the universe. We're here for a second. We should be spending every moment of every day in complete awe that we can even contemplate existence, to look up in the sky and realize it goes forever. My God, even to think about the fact that I'm here because, generations and generations going back through billions of years, or I don't know how long, but so many thousands or hundreds of thousands or millions of years of people had to get together, and then someone else had to get together with someone else to even mean that I'm here. It just, life is so mind-blowing in the reality of contemplating it, that why are we worrying about, whether, ticket sales are down, or like, or we're not getting enough, not enough people are liking us online or something.
Yeah, which I'm sure consumes most of us. And I absolutely agree. Like, life is a miracle. And sort of touching on what you say about, like, to be so grateful that we're alive, and to understand that life is temporary. Like, I know I practice now and then. It's called negative visualization. It's from the Stoics. And it's like, sometimes just sitting down and thinking about the potential loss of everything. And it sounds really like dire and like a bit morbid, but for me, it just makes me like sort of live more in awe. Like, this morning I'm looking at the sun. I'm like, imagine if I only had a few more days here on earth, and like, how much more would I appreciate seeing this beautiful sunrise this morning, or, my partner in the other room. And it's just so strong when you really understand that we don't have forever. And it seems like, cliche and very simple, but I think most of us live our life not truly appreciating the things around us, because we're worrying too much, and we're really not aware of that at any point this can all just be taken away from us.
Absolutely. When I hear about someone, like the randomness of life, like someone's driving along and something falls off the back of this is a morbid thing to say, but something falls off the back of a truck in front of them and goes through the windscreen, and all of a sudden they're dead. I mean, it's a terrible, sad thing. But I think, what if that person at that moment was worrying about some bullshit? At any moment we can pass into the next realm, whatever that is. I don't want my last moment to be spent on triviality, which it's all, that whole don't sweat the small stuff and it's all small stuff. I mean, that's a great title for a book, because it's true, it's crazy how we are conditioned to be concerned about things that don't matter.
Yeah. And speaking about book titles, I was thinking, I know that you co-write some children's books. Maybe you should write one called Thought Factory.
Yeah, that's, what? Exactly. I think that is, I do try to convince my son especially, who is scared, that it's just a thought factory, mate. It's just, and you can make the decision. I remember the other day, he's like, I was watching him recently, and he got pulled. He plays under 14s basketball, and he loves it, and it's a representative team. He's a lower level, but he's in Div 5. He's probably not on his way to the NBA. Maybe he is. I don't know. Whatever. Good on him. But he got pulled off the court, and he was sort of crying as he left the court, because he felt like he'd let the team down. And I said to him afterwards, mate, and I'm trying to say, we're going to be known as the happy kid, all right? So, and it's your decision, If you go out there with the attitude of I'm happy to be here and I'm going to enjoy it, and whether I get pulled off the court after making a mistake or whatever, if you can jog off that court smiling, you're the winner. That's winning in life. That being able to, and it's like watching the Olympics and people being, people just Kyle Chalmers, I'm obsessed by the Olympics at the moment. So, but he came second in the 100 meter freestyle by like 0.06, unbelievably. But his attitude afterwards was just, I did my best, and you can see he was genuinely okay with it. It was just a beautiful moment. I thought it was just an attitude, and that's a winning attitude of doing all you can and then just smiling your way through life.
Yeah, it's a powerful attitude, and particularly working so hard to get to where he is. It's pretty phenomenal. So I'm intrigued, because particularly having a father that's like a happy go-getter, he's, funny, he's a comedian. At any point, do like any of your family friends just like, does it just have a grate on them that like you're happy and funny all the time?
Look, I don't think so. I mean, I've had times with my family where they haven't been happy with me. Like my brother has been not happy with me over the years. But in a way, I can sort of see where he was coming from. Like, our dad passed away a number of years ago now, and I did the eulogy at the funeral, and I don't think my brother was happy about it. But in a way, but you know what? Looking back, I do think that I was a wanker about it, like part of me was going, oh, I've achieved not. I didn't verbalize this, but internally, I probably had the attitude, oh, look, I'm on TV, and Dad was proud of me, and it's sort of bullshit. Do you know what I mean? Like, and I can see that can be grating on family members, and that was, and over the years, I have spent too much time on my career and not enough time ringing my mother. You know what I mean? It's like, which I'm doing more now. Just we've got to stay connected with our family, or stay connected with people who mean a lot to you. And I am consciously doing that more over the years. So I think I am becoming a better family member as I get older, as I get a bit wiser, and as I, focus less on the achievements of my career. And it's partly probably some of that is because, maybe I don't sell as many tickets as I did, or, maybe I've had TV shows that don't rate as well as they used to, In a way, it's actually humbling, and you can see what's actually important in life.
Yeah, I love that you brought up the story of your dad, because it was something that I really resonated with when you shared that, both in 2010 and 2018, with a message that you received. Do you mind sharing with us a little bit more of that story? Because to my understanding, your relationship with your dad, it was kind of these unspoken words of, I love you.
Yeah, well, we had a sort of there's many, I think, maybe, I don't know, many boys and their dads have fractious sort of relationships where, over the years, Dad he was quite highly strung. I mean, he was very funny, but, and he was, I remember growing up where he probably saw potential in me and thought I was lazy, which I sort of was in many ways. And so we didn't speak over the years as much as what we should have, I think it's fair to say. And so, so I was, I was there at the end of his life, which was nice that I was there. But a number of years later, a nurse contacted me after she'd seen me on a TV show talking about my dad. I think I probably made a joke about how he thought I was a loser or something. It was a joke, but it was partly true back in the day. And she said that she was nursing him in his final days, and he was talking about being so proud of me but of all the children. And she said he couldn't have been prouder of you and your brother and sisters. And she wrote me a letter and it was an email, and it was a beautiful thing to receive. It was lovely, and it made me cry, and it was lovely. But but again, I'll accept that was lovely. I will, but I still don't. I don't want to. Let's not live wanting other people to be proud of it. So I actually said to my kids, I remember watching some reality TV show, and you know what it was? It was Shane Warne's son on SAS Australia. Oh God, what's his name? Anyway, Shane's son was on SAS Australia, and he said, "I just want my dad to be proud of me on the TV show." And I actually said to my children at the time, "Guys, don't ever say that. You don't need to want me to be proud of you." And my three kids said, "Well, we don't, Dad. We couldn't get less."
Don't you think you're that important?
So yeah, I love the fact that I've instilled that sense of humor in my children, that they, and they're loving they're just funny kids who are relaxed and generally just have a laugh and enjoy life, which is great.
Yeah, I think it's such an important topic. And the reason why I resonated with it was that with my dad, I'm 32 now, but from when I was 15 years old, that was the last time I remember him saying, I love you. And I remember it because before that, it didn't happen too many times. And probably about a year and a half ago, I sat him down and spoke to him about it. And I was like, you know what? Because as a child, I mirrored him. So I was like, well, if he doesn't say it, then I'm not going to say it. And there was that form of vulnerability that kind of gets built up between it. And I just said to him, I was like, as an adult now, I'm going to lean into this, and I'm going to tell you every time I speak with you that I love you. And I would love for you to say it back. But if you don't, I'm okay with that. I'm going to say this with no expectation. And since then, like, I think he said it once and then kind of stopped for a bit and then started, and he's here and there. And I definitely know that he loves me. But what really it showed me was that, like, I'm sure it happens with mothers as well, but I certainly hear it as more of a theme amongst fathers, is like there is a true vulnerability in being able to say, I love you to their family and children.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I grew up in a family we really didn't say it to each other at all. And I'm still, my mum, who I am ringing all the time now, and she's 80 years old now, and she's still very independent and doing a thing. But yeah, we are talking more often, and you know what, she's ringing me more as well, which is great. So, but we still have that funny thing of saying I love you. We're both embarrassed to say it.
It's so bad. It's so bad.
Ridiculous. My children don't. My son doesn't have that problem. He'll say I love you, not to me, to his own mum. He says it all the time. It's often funny where I'm in the lounge room and he goes, I love you, mum, and I'm like, well, I'm here too, mate. All right?
Yeah, it's just the most bizarre thing, particularly when you're aware of it. You're like, what is going on?
I know. I'm embarrassed about this.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. And sort of reframing sort of what you said at the start of the podcast now, in looking at how other people's behaviors and just laughing about it. Like if my dad I feel the hesitation, like I'll get off the phone and what used to kind of hurt me, or I'd have some form of resentment, I now just like have a little laugh. I'm like, I know he loves me. Like the poor thing just can't get it out today, and that's okay.
I know. We often, I think as you get older, you just start to forgive your parents more, basically. Whether no one's perfect, basically.
Yeah, absolutely. So in relation to your children, because I really always find this really interesting, because I don't have children of my own, and I feel like there's so much wisdom when you ask the question, like, what is it that your children, what is one of the biggest lessons you'd love your children to learn from you at this point in your life?
Well, my son turned 12 a few months ago, and I said, off the cuff, I said, oh, mate, you're 12 now. What's the secret to life? And he said to me, unprompted, he said, to laugh at it. And I'm like, that is just a perfect answer, and, he'll be okay. So that is really the main thing. I know I'm a comedian and maybe that's, makes sense, but it's still the main thing I want my children to be able to do, to laugh at life. If you can laugh at life, and you can laugh at all your problems, you can laugh at all your imperfections, you're going to be okay, So, and if you can tell your friends stories about your failures, they'll love it, because you want to hear about all your friends' failures. That's what you want to hear about. So, a true friend is someone you can have a big failure, and you can ring this person and tell them the story, and they'll laugh. I think that is a real friend. I've got some comedian mates who, as soon as they have a really bad gig, they ring me because they know I'll find it funny. So,
yeah, it's so healing, I find as well, because I have friends like that where it's just like you can just ring them and you're like, oh my God, like I just need to share this.
Something embarrassing.
This is the most ridiculous thing. And I love it. And I think Brene Brown, who like specializes in, vulnerability research and things like that, like she is like such an advocate of that. But she also shared, she's like, be mindful of who you share these like very vulnerable stories with, because not everyone is going to laugh and it's going to make things worse. So I'll just note that there. Make sure you're sharing it with the right people, but I'm sure comedians are probably a good choice.
Well, yeah, but yes, and try to if you do have children or whatever, cultivate that in them. Laughing is just seeing the silliness of it. It's all silly. We're all carry on like we're important. And then, we're all dead. And then, and then if you somehow you have made life think you're important, they make a statue of you and the birds shit on it. And then it's like, it's all ridiculous.
So what's your mission when it comes to comedy? Because obviously it's something that stayed with you for a lot of your life. And I see you sort of moving through that into the future. What is like the underlying mission and drive that you have with sharing like your jokes and having people laugh?
Oh, look, this makes me sound like a wanker, and probably my main mission is to be famous and get more Instagram followers and have money. But apart from that, it is just to be able to get people to laugh at how silly life is. I remember when I first, those first gigs that I did back in, God, it's 30 years ago now. but those first gigs I did, I was living in Perth. I dropped out of uni. I was on, the dole, and I didn't have a girlfriend, and I discovered that I could be funny on stage, and that was a a lifesaver for me. But in many other ways, I was an absolute failure in life at that time. So I was getting handouts from the government, and I couldn't get a girlfriend. So, but I was able to go on stage and talk about that and make that stuff funny. I'd have people come up to me and go, "Mate, I've been on the dole for a while now. I've felt really bad about it, but since I saw you up there, making it funny, now I don't feel so bad." And it's for people to be able, if I can tell a story and get a laugh, or I tell a story that is really embarrassing and get people to laugh at it, I hope that means that they can also laugh at their own bullshit, So, and that's the most altruistic thing I can do, I believe. So, yeah. So, and the irony of my early career is I developed routines about being on the dole, and I actually had another comedian friend of mine who I think was a bit jealous of how many laughs I was getting. So, what about when you get rich and what about if you get rich and famous, you won't be able to joke about being on the dole anymore? And I'm like, I think I'll cross that bridge when I get to it, mate. So I've been able to navigate that part. So.
Thank God for creativity.
Yeah.
So thank you so much for this just hilarious and beautiful conversation with you. Thank you. You have so much depth to you, and I just love the headspace that you're in and you're advocating for. I would love to ask you, on a final note, Hughesy, what does it mean to you to be human?
It means I get the gift of being able to experience life, this life. I get to be able to wonder at the mystery of it all, and that makes me really lucky, like everyone else who is human. We all get to wonder at the mystery of life, and it's a beautiful thing.